Hello, guys. Good evening. What's up? It is Gina Ifoe, the one and only African superstar, back at it again with a live stream. Yes, I tried to go live a few days ago, and unfortunately, the crowd support was not there. So I can only deduce when you guys are not in the chat room that the topic is not engaging or, whatever. Therefore, we had to end the stream live quickly, abruptly, I guess. Early is the word I meant to use. And so hopefully tonight we will have decent engagement and be able to get through this topic. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Special shout outs for our members only. Yes, you heard me correctly. Members only is back at it again. If you're interested in members only, the link is in the box below. We also have a group tour coming up October 19th through the 26th. Don't hesitate to join us. All the details are in the box about that. And last but not least, make sure you're adding the African Superstar to your music playlist. We're out there on all the streaming sites. We have several music videos here on the channel as well. So if you're not familiar with who you're following here, an award-winning musician and actress, hello, then please acquaint yourself. Big shout out to the family. When you come into the room, please get into the chat room so that we can begin this discussion tonight. It's another proximity series. I have an entire playlist of proximities where I talk about various proximity issues. Proximity has to do with our proximity to our historical enemy. It comes with so many side effects. It comes with so many deficits. It comes with so many issues and psychological problems. Yes. And so what I want to talk about tonight is the proximity measure that opportunity is only available in the West. The other day I received a phone call from a good friend of mine, a fellow musician that was here in Ghana that relocated to New York City. And he's now been living there a couple years. And, when he called, it was kind of odd because he doesn't really call me that often. I actually haven't talked to him in probably a couple years or so since he moved. And so he called and he began to inquire of why I decided to leave America for Ghana. I think a lot of people think by now, after 5 years, it's starting to kind of sink into their head that, I'm really trying to remain here and make a position here. And it's often the source of so much curiosity. So I want to talk about that tonight. What's up, guys? If you're here, please get into the chat room so we can kick it off. I see some of you there. Please greet, be on code, get into the chat room, like the stream. I did put a notice up on the community tab. Live streams are interactive, so it's contingent on you guys engaging or just watch the playback. But when I see the numbers, I'm going to expect some engagement. So we're waiting on someone to get into the chat room so that we can kick off this conversation. Another proximity issue: opportunity is only available in the Western world. That is how we have been groomed to think. That's how the whole world has been groomed to think. But that we know is false, definitely false. So we want to talk about that tonight. Come on, guys. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Hello. I tried to do this stream a few days ago and I couldn't get any support in the chat room. So let's not do a repeat because I won't be trying to bring this topic for a third time. Hello, I'll move on to another topic. We're waiting on you guys in the chat room. Hello. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Waiting on someone who is on code so that we can begin the topic. Yes. Live streams are interactive, guys. Otherwise, don't even bother. Okay, just watch the playbacks. What's the point of me going live if there's no live action? Hello. Big shout outs to Miss Ajike. Hi, sweetheart. Thank you. I can always count on my members only to be down for me. Yes, Miss Ajike is one of our members only. They are designated by the circle next to their name. She was actually here when I tried to talk about this topic the other day, but unfortunately, we couldn't get the channel on code. Hello. Are you guys going to be on code today or what? Hello, hello, hello. So I proceeded to get this phone call, like I said, from a Ghanaian friend of mine that was living here when I came to Ghana. Actually, when I, first became a musician in late 2021, I connected with some musicians, and that is one of these individuals. And so, recently he called and he asked me, why did you leave America? It's just so boggling. It's just so boggling. And I proceeded to tell him that, you know what, you're kind of new in the country. And it will be difficult for you to understand my position because you're new. It's simply like members of the diaspora. You come here to the continent. You don't know all the things that are swirling around you. You don't know about the politics in the country. You don't know some of the cultural history. You don't know a lot of things. You're coming in at that moment and, you may just be in a bubble. And that's how a lot of migrants and immigrants are when they go to their new home environment. They kind of, get their routine established, get their community established, get their, bearings, and they may not be aware of a lot of things that are happening in the country. Okay, guys, let me wait. I'm going to give y'all 2 minutes. Nobody's in the chat room except for GK. Don't do this today because I'm not going to talk about this topic for a third time. Hello. So up to you. You're here live. I see you. Get in the chat room and be on code or not. Hello. We're waiting on you to get into the chat room. Only a GK is there. It says we have 8 of you in the room. So where's the other 7? You have 2 minutes or else I'll just drop the topic. I take time out. I'm very busy. I'm currently shooting a TV series. Yes. Take time out to come and talk about these topics for your awareness, not mine. Your awareness. And all I ask is that you are a part of our conversations. Simple. What's up, Shamshu? I see you there. Thank you so much. ATM International. All right. Thank you, family members. Lord have mercy. It's like pulling teeth. Make sure you also hit the likes when you come in the room. The concept that success is only available in the Western world, guys, you may not realize it, but this is a symptom of proximity. Okay? It makes you feel like everything is happening in your environment and other locations have nothing to offer you. A lot of Westerners, specifically Americans, have very, very strong opinions on places they've never been. And it's just remarkable. And when you actually think about it, you would think to yourself, that is kind of crazy that I would have such a strong opinion on a place I've never been. Where do those ideas come from? And in reality, when we talk about opportunity, okay, it has been well documented and noted that the opportunity is here on the continent. That the continent is the future. So many multinational companies are coming and, beginning their imprint here on the continent. So many foreigners, non-Black foreigners are coming and, setting up their enterprises and all this stuff because it is an irrefutable fact. Yet, the brainwashing, the propaganda is going to have you believing that you can only really make it in the Western world. And that is the answer to why a lot of continental Africans go through great lengths to move abroad, is because they are conditioned to believe that all the opportunity is in the Western world. And guess what, guys? Where does that come from? If continental Africans are not living in close proximity, with the exception of South Africans, but if the vast majority of continental Africans are not living in proximity, where is this ideology coming from? It's coming from colonization, the media, education, and religion. Okay? And these are all what? Products of who? Who? For those of you guys that don't know, England colonized Ghana. Okay? They are the ones who set up the construct as it is. And of course, skewed it to their benefit. You see, and one of the most popular strategies of the Western world is, let's go ahead and set up the booby trap. Okay, let's set these things into motion. And when you fall into the trap, we're going to blame you for falling into the trap and not looking at the bigger picture and not looking at the root cause. Okay, when you believe that all opportunity is in the Western world, especially when that's not your reality, which is the truth of millions of Americans. Millions of Americans think they are in the promised land, when their day-to-day life and reality don't reflect promised land, doesn't reflect success, doesn't reflect prosperity. Hello? But they believe. Because of what? Because of the brainwashing, because of the propaganda. Okay? In reality, opportunity is here in Africa, but it's so hard for people to process that I choose to be here instead of there. You see, in Ohio, when I left Ohio in 2017, I was an Uber driver. I came to Ghana and became a personality, a musician, and now an actress. Huh? Lived in the cold climate. Had to deal with racism on a frequent basis. Huh? Daily grinds, slave life. Yeah. Ohio, UK. Living my best life now here in Ghana. When you weigh it, it's kind of obvious, right? It's kind of obvious. But the reason that we believe that, we can't make it in the motherland, what's even holding some of you guys back is the perception that, how am I going to manage myself in Africa? Although your day-to-day reality, you're not really happy with that either. Right? Big shout out to Afrikansuperstar family. I have a few videos I want to show about proximity, this topic about the propaganda, the brainwashing. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? African Hebrew, I see you there, brother. Thank you so much for stopping by. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you to the Afrikansuperstar family. Those of you guys on code, I know it's a struggle. I don't know. Either we have a lot of spectators. Listen, if you're a spectator and you can't type in the chat room because you have like cerebral palsy or, you have comprehension issues or something, just go ahead and send a super chat. Okay, because I see you in numbers here. So make your presence be known. What this engagement does is puts us in the algorithm. Some of you guys come to my platform and are like, oh my God, Afrikansuperstar, you should have a huge platform. You should have a lot of followers. Okay, let's take a minute out before I start my video. Let's take a minute out. What we know about social media, what we know about YouTube, the algorithm, right? They push sensational content. They push controversial content. They push derogatory content. Is that the content of the Afrikansuperstar? Does that sound like my platform? What does that mean? That means unless we find alternative ways to push our content out there, we can't rely on the system to do that, because my subject matter is not the subject matter that they want. They want, there's a platform called K&K Squad. I'm sure some of you are familiar, because virtually anytime they post a sensational video about Ghana, I get it sent to me on Instagram and Facebook and all of this stuff. You see, they're going to push that type of content, not this kind of content. So I need to rely on my audience to like, share, and subscribe. It's simple. Hello. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. All right, let's go ahead and get into the videos. Guys, if you're enjoying the proximity series, make sure that you are a part of our conversation today. Okay? And like the stream and leave your comments in the chat room. You can also support the stream if you are enjoying it. Before we get into the videos, we're going to play a small clip of my latest track, Boom Boom. Make sure it's on your playlist. Hello.
My new song, Boom Boom, is a crazy banger. Oh my god. I hope you have that.
One and only
the African Superstar.
African Superstar on the
You're
track.
gonna wanna play it on repeat. Just listen.
International award winning. Yes.
Trust me. When it comes to lyrics,
In the
we don't
midnight
play.
hour, when I get next to you, butterflies in my tummy, and my heart goes boom boom. In the midnight hour, when I get next to you, feels so exciting, and my heart goes boom boom. There's nobody like you. You're my one and only. Since the day that we met, I remember you've been driving me crazy. I love your brown eyes and your chocolate skin. Not ashamed to say it over and over again.
In the midnight hour, when your pretty eyes meet mine, you probably be some mesmerized. You will go down on your knees, say a little prayer for me.
All right, guys. Yes, that little commercial break. That is my latest track called Boom, 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 all in your room. Yes, make sure you add us to your streams. And that song is also here on YouTube for you to enjoy the audio. All right, let's go ahead and get into the first video regarding the propaganda of the Western world.
So something really fascinating about moving to the UK from the US is really realizing how brainwashed we all were as Americans to be told that we are the greatest country on earth. And like this started at a very young age. Like every day in school, we had to pledge allegiance to the flag to like show our love and dedication and devotion to America. That's so weird. Like it feels so Hunger Games to be, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America with our hand over our heart. Like, what?
All right, so this young man moved out of the U.S. and began to kind of have this epiphany about what he thought he knew about the outside world, and began to kind of look back and see how we are socialized in the Western world. You know, I talk about this a lot, both in person and also on social media. We have been groomed a particular way for the benefit of the consumerism in the Western world. Okay, if you got to think about it critically, guys. If you need lots of workers, okay, to fuel this country and make maybe the top 10% corporations in the country continue their wealth because you're in a capitalist nation, okay, you need to retain your workers. Okay, you don't need them exploring the outside world and going to Bali and realizing, oh my God, I can live for, $1,000 a month, or coming to Africa and realizing what's available here. No, you need to make sure that you contain those people. And we receive a lot of false information about the outside world, and it is a fact. And a lot of you would maybe disregard what I have to tell you, but y'all listen to the white man, so I make sure I try to include some of them in these video segments, because white people telling y'all and then y'all listen. See, hello.
Living outside the United States has become a financial awakening. Americans are brainwashed into giving away their income in little pieces, i.e. monthly payments. Let me give you an example based on my bank statement from a year ago. Netflix, Amazon Prime, car insurance, homeowners insurance, renter's insurance, mortgage payments, car payments, antivirus protection, errors and emissions insurance for my professional licensing, cell phone and cellular plans, Canva, Hulu, Disney, credit card payments, health insurance. You know the average American family is paying over $6,000 a month in monthly installments? Outside the U.S., you don't see that. You know why? Because people aren't living on credit. Credit isn't available. You don't even hear about credit scores outside the United States. All right? When people buy a car, they pay cash. When they buy groceries, they're not putting it on a credit card, they're paying cash. Maybe a debit card, but they're still paying cash. They're not paying renter's insurance. They're not sitting in front of the TV 8 hours a day watching something that they're paying for. You don't see it here. Matter of fact, I don't turn on the television but maybe a couple hours a week, and that's rare. You just don't have the same responsibilities financially outside of the U.S. The things that seem important in the U.S. are not important outside of the U.S. People, it is an awakening in the largest degree.
And is talking about the way that the Western world siphoned your resources from you. And you know, I have talked about this a lot here on the channel regarding consumerism and debt, and how a lot of these things anchor you to the Western world. Because, you know, let's be real, you take that mortgage out, okay, you are committing to 30 years of debt, basically. Okay, now some of you guys will say, yeah, I was able to pay my mortgage early and this and that. Yeah, I know that, you know, there are ways to maybe expedite the process and things like that. But in reality, most people are going to have to pay their mortgage in installments for the full amount of, you know, the full duration of the loan. So this man talks about, you know, this is a form of slavery, really, if you think about it. Because yeah, you go to work and then you get your salary and it looks good in your direct deposit, it looks great, but then you start dividing it up and divvying it out, and at the end of the day you have nothing. And he talked about how abroad, you know, you don't see the same dynamic because people have to pay cash for their goods. They have to pay cash for their car, their phones, their clothes, their groceries. And so that also will reduce the amount of things that you think you need and the things that you're spending on, because you have to pay cash. If most of you guys were honest and you look at your finances and you look at the way you live, a lot of times you're spending money that you don't have. Some people are using loans, or they're going to check cashing places, or, you know, they have overdraft on their account, or they have credit cards, and they're utilizing these resources as if they are cash, and it's debt. Okay, and then on top of that debt, then you're going to pay interest, which again, it's still making someone money. And again, this is just brainwashing. You know, Western people, Americans, look down on a lot of other nations, when the reality is the other nations, what would have been classified as third world countries, they got to pay cash for everything. Okay, if you bought your house on a mortgage, you don't own that. Okay, you don't own that until you have the deed. And matter of fact, in America, you never own it because you still have to pay property taxes. And even if the mortgage is paid on a house, if you default on the taxes, they can still take your whole property. Okay, now, you know, compare that with someone here in Ghana who owns their house outright, no mortgage, built it from the ground up, bought the land, doesn't pay property taxes. That's called ownership. Okay, so who should really be looking down on who? But again, because of the brainwashing, hey, the Western world is on top. All right, let me get into the next video.
The impact of colonization is brainwashing. Using religion, using education, using entertainment to create different role models altogether. Here now our children being taught Casper and the Friendly Ghosts, Tinky Winky. They're being taught, Snoopy Dogs. They're being taught the Seven Dwarfs. They're being taught William Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. Even when they go to school to study their own history, they don't study their history. They're being taught to study their history. It's not about us, it's about them. So you go to school, you're being taught about Napoleon Bonaparte, Charlemagne's, the Bolshevik Wars, the industrialization, and etc. And you wonder, where do you even study about Kemet, the building of the pyramids?
So in this clip, this scholar, he is talking about colonization, the brainwashing, controlling what we learn. And, I always go back to what Malcolm X advised us so long, which is we are fools to allow our enemies to educate our children. Okay, what exactly do we expect them to impute into our kids? Do you expect them to give a biased and accurate account of how things went down? Of course not, because that's going to paint them in the negative light that is actual history. All right. And in the model where they are controlling the media, history, and promoting their religion, they are superior and we are inferior. And so, again, guys, proximity, if you think about it, all right, if you critically think about it, it makes a lot of sense why our people suffer from low self-esteem and feel inadequate and feel like they're not beautiful and feel incapable. Well, the proximity has helped them get to that conclusion. You see, because once upon a time when there was this, little organization called the Black Panthers, and they were promoting Black power, and they were promoting natural beauty, afros, and they were teaching the kids, I'm Black and I'm proud, and making them feel confident about who they were. That was the sentiment. That was the time of the day. Okay, so proximity, exposure, representation, all these things are critical, and obviously our enemy knows this and is making sure that they're utilizing these tools for their benefit and not our own. All right, and let me get into my last video.
You ever feel like everything in America is just off? Nothing makes sense, but at the same time, it makes too much sense. That's because this country doesn't run on truth. It runs on propaganda. And the worst part, most people don't even realize it. You turn on the news and it's never just, this is what happened today. It's always
breaking chaos, crisis, fear.
But have you ever stopped to ask why they want you so afraid? Because fear keeps you watching. And the longer you watch, the more money they make. That's not news, that's psychological warfare. Fox News will tell you the country's being invaded. CNN will tell you that democracy is crumbling. Meanwhile, the rich keep getting richer, and the poor keep getting ignored. But you're too busy being scared of your own neighbor to notice the real problem. And that's not by accident. The US loves to brand itself as the ultimate symbol of freedom. But let's be real, free for who? The US has the highest incarceration rate in the world. More people locked up here than in countries with dictatorships. How does that make sense? And don't even get me started on how America spreads democracy. Funny how we only invade countries with oil, lithium, or strategic importance. But yeah, sure. Tell me again how it's always about freedom. America has been at war for over 90% of its existence. Have you ever asked yourself who actually benefits? 'Cause it ain't the soldiers, and it sure as hell ain't the civilians. It's the defense contractors, the weapons manufacturers, the billionaires who sit in boardrooms and profit off of blood. Remember when they told us that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction? That was a lie. And then when we found out, nobody cared. Because by then the money was already made. The damage was done. And if you dared to question it at the time, you were called unpatriotic. That's how propaganda works. It doesn't just spread lies, it shames you for seeking the truth. You ever notice how they blame you for being broke? If you just worked harder, you'd be successful. Meanwhile, billionaires don't even pay taxes. The system is literally designed for you to struggle. But instead of questioning why the minimum wage hadn't moved in years, we're too busy arguing over whether poor people deserve health care. That's propaganda. That's how they keep us distracted. They tell you that capitalism is about working hard and getting what you earn. But the wealthiest people in this country inherit their money, while you're out here working 2 jobs just to survive. Make that make sense. And if you think that's bad, social media is even worse. Algorithms don't push truth. They push what keeps you scrolling. And what keeps you scrolling? Anger, fear, controversy. One out of context video goes viral, and suddenly everybody's fighting in the comments. Political bots spread fake news, and people eat it up without even questioning it. The craziest part? The government doesn't even have to do the work anymore. We spread the propaganda for them. America runs on propaganda, but unlike dictatorships where it's obvious, here it's wrapped in patriotism capitalism and freedom. And that's the scariest part, because the best propaganda is the kind that you don't even realize that you're being fed.
All right, family. Yes. So in this one, this was quite a long one, but it was I thought it was really good content. This young lady talks about, the reality of life in America versus the propaganda. She talked about the high incarceration rate of a country that boasts freedom. Um, she talked about, the capitalism. She talked about social media. She talked about, basically how if you question things, if you, which I totally get all the time, which is like you're unpatriotic because you're not just promoting the US blindly. When you talk about a lot of their failures, a lot of their inadequacies, when you talk about the reality of how you're living and your peers are living, then it's a big, big problem. Big shout outs. What's up? What's up? What's up? Let me try to get her details. Hold on. Let's see here. Let me see, because I don't
Feel like
know.
everything in America is just off. Nothing makes sense, but at the same time, it makes too much sense. That's because this country doesn't run on truth. It runs on propaganda. And the worst part, most people don't even realize it. You turn on the news and it's never just, this is what happened today. It's always,
Breaking chaos, crisis, fear.
but have you ever stopped to ask why they want you so afraid? Because fear keeps you watching. And the longer you watch, the more money they make. That's not news, that's psychological warfare. Fox News will tell you the country's being invaded. CNN will tell you that democracy is crumbling. Meanwhile, the rich keep getting richer, and the poor keep getting ignored. But you're too busy being scared of your own neighbor.
Um, I can't quite see it. It's too small for me to get. Sorry. If you could see the name on the screen, I know it's Ashley something. I can't look it up here. Sorry, but you can just look up. The title of that video is America Lied Again, and it's on TikTok. So you should be able to locate it. I can't see her name from here. The screen is just too small. Sorry about that. But anyway, this young lady talked about a lot of those parallels, a lot of those oxymorons, a lot of those fallacies. And so when my friend called, and asked me, uh, why did you leave America? And, I tried to explain to him, and, he's like, well, that's not true. You're looking at it a particular way. He actually said that my content is hatred. And I'm thinking, like, again, pure propaganda, pure propaganda, because how else can you explain you're in a location here on the continent? It's a developing nation, which already tells you there's going to be opportunities because there's needs and there's problems. Okay. It's a lot easier for you to get started in this type of environment, in my opinion, because there's a variety of things that you can produce and create and get yourself involved in. Compared to the Western world, there's just so much bureaucracy and everything. Every time you want to do anything, you want to start a business, you want to get into music, you want to do, everything you're trying to do. There's just like so much red tape. Versus if you are motivated in this environment, I mean, we've seen it. So many people have come here and gone from zero to no limit because there's not all that red tape that's in place currently, which allows you the freedom to escalate. And he just really can't get it. And I'm like, you know what, bro? After you spend about 10 years, we can have this conversation, But I know that the brainwashing has him believing that America is the land of opportunity. I mean, that's part of the marketing. Land of opportunity, land of the free, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. I mean, all these campaigns that have been projected out there that are not true. They're just simply not true. And we definitely know that. We definitely know that. So I came to discuss this with you guys tonight. This is another element of proximity, in my opinion. I think when you don't have tangible information as to why you think and feel the way you do about a particular topic or subject or location that you have no, experience with, that is part of the deconstruction. Okay, that is part of the deconstruction. When you have, like, for instance, there's so many Black Americans that feel very strongly about Africa. Where did that come from? Malcolm X says, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Hello. Who taught you to hate your nose? Was it your peers? Because no, it wasn't your peers. Your peers isn't controlling the media. Okay? Your peers is not in control of the education system. Huh? Your peers are not controlling the religion. Hello? Your peers are mere consumers in this whole world, which means that those are at the top controlling is not your peers. And that's where a lot of this ideology comes from. And the way, the beauty of what they do, for lack of better terms, is they remove themselves from any responsibility. Hello? So they're going to set up the infrastructure. Like I said, we don't set up the infrastructure. We're not in control of those things. And then when, the ramifications from those infrastructures come out, then we blame the people instead of the institution. Now let's say we're talking about a court case, right? Let's say that there is someone who has unalived their abuser. Okay, this is very popular in domestic violence cases. Okay, so this person has finally, gotten tired of the abuse and decided to retaliate. Either a fight is broken out or they just unalive their abuser. Now, when we look at that case, and just like the judge and jury would, they're going to analyze the circumstantial evidence. They're going to look at the big picture and say, okay, what's the antecedent of this incident? In some cases, maybe it's self-defense. Okay, but when we look at our people, somehow we absolve all the infrastructure around us. We absolve the role that the media plays, that the education plays. Hello, that religion plays. Okay, some of you guys may not want to admit it, but religion promotes inferiority complexes in our people. For God's sake, the deity is not in our image. Okay, the deity is not in our image, and the wicked, characters in this story are projected to be more similar to us. Hello, the angels and the saints and all the angelic people are closer to them, and the wicked and bad people is closer to us. Do you think that doesn't impact your psychological? There is a saying here in Ghana in tree, which I don't know the tree part, but I know the meaning, which is, maybe some of my Ghana folk, if any of you guys are in here, you can help me out with the parable in tree. But the saying says, if you're on your way to church and you see a white man, you can turn around because you've seen God. So implying that, the white people, the white man is godlike. He's to be held in high esteem. And we try to absorb these facts because we want to hold on to our colonizer. We want to hold on to the things that they have brought into our life and introduced us to, despite the damage that those things are causing us. So I'm here to let you know, when you question why some of your peers are in Africa or living in Africa, you must consider the role that propaganda has played. Could it be that members of the diaspora, when they came to the continent and they realized that it was not as the propaganda had portrayed, that this was a better environment for them. This was a better setting. And I kindly would like to remind you guys, nobody goes from a higher level to the bottom willingly. Nobody does that. Nobody says, you know what, I was a top supermodel, I want to become the heroin addicted, nobody. Nobody says, oh yeah, I'm a billionaire, I want to just, squander my entire fortune and live under the bridge. So what makes you think I want to live, I want to leave the Western world, this is what you guys say, comfortable life and, infrastructure and, whatever nonsense, and come and live in abject poverty, stress, and in a poor environment? Could it be that this is a better environment? Could it be that this environment is an upgrade? Is that so hard to negotiate? Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat room. Hello. If you are here, please, please, please make your presence known. I'm checking the chat room now. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Art of Today, I see you there. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. IAS Production says they love to highlight the negative things in Africa. 100%. And because there's so much energy right now surrounding the continent, they want to derail you. Guys, some of these tricks and tactics you should be ready for. You should already know what time it is. First trivia question of the night. What are some of the tactics that they use on our people when our people are seeking freedom? What are some of the tactics? Hello, we got over 20 of you here, so I should be able to get some answers. Hello. What are some of the tactics? You should know the tactics, so that when the tactics get deployed on you, you don't fall for it. What are some of the tactics? Think about Martin Luther King. Think about Gaddafi. Think about Malcolm X. Think about Huey P. Newton. What are some of the tactics that get used? Hello? Now ask yourself, are any of these tactics in effect when it comes to the continent and the diaspora? Hello? Is anybody in the chat room? Is anybody in the chat room? I asked a trivia question. What are some of the tactics when our people begin to pursue freedom? When our people begin to pursue awareness, what do they do? What do they do? Come on, guys. Oh my God. It's worse than I thought. Oh. Where's Brown Coat Blue at? Brown Coat Blue is worse than I thought, brother. We just can't. You guys, I'm not trying to be funny. Are you guys brain dead? What's happening? What's going on? Simple trivia questions you can't answer. Thank you. Art of It Today. Fear mongering. Michael O. The propaganda machine kicks into high gear. One of the things that they do is they will do what? Use your own as a weapon of mass destruction. Huh? You guys seen the recent comments from this general in the U.S. attacking Ibrahim Traore, saying that Ibrahim Traore is a threat and that he is a dictator, right? They've used this tactic on every African and Black American and freedom fighter leader in the past forever. So when you see such controversial platforms here on YouTube, think about the tactics, family. Think about the tactics. Now let me break down this Africa thing real quick before I wrap up. Big shout out to the family. Big shout out to the family. Let's break down this Africa thing here. All right. Number one, if you grew up in the Western world, you got propaganda about Africa. Okay. You never saw anything beautiful or enticing. You never saw, um, you know, proper modern houses or any of the tourist attractions, the beaches. You never saw the beautiful populations, the people, huh? You saw starving kids. You saw village life. Okay. No development. Okay, you didn't see the beaches, you didn't see the nightlife or the culture or the foodie cult. You didn't see any of that stuff. All right, now the social media is the catalyst, and you have a lot of people coming here to the continent and showing contrary media to the propaganda. What comes out? The sellouts. Huh? And here on YouTube, they have some of the biggest platforms. Why do they have the biggest platforms? Why would someone like some of these platforms, why would they be bigger than someone like me? Because those people are going to distract you and derail you from coming here to the continent. I'm talking about the facts today. What are the other facts? You know that the Chinese are coming here to the continent? Huh? You know the Indians are here, the Lebanese are here, the whites have been here since been pimping. What makes you think that if they are coming, there's nothing here? You 100% know that they are coming here and setting up enterprise, yet you're confused about whether or not you should come and see what it is. You're distracted about whether you should come because someone made a YouTube video saying they couldn't find snacks in Africa. Think about it. Think about it, guys. Tactics. They're using the same damn playbook on you guys, and a lot of you are falling for it. You claim that you would be the runaway slaves. If you were back in the day, you would beat up the master. You're a lie. You're a lie. Because you're becoming susceptible to the same stuff. If you've been watching my platform and following my journey, then you should be able to deduce by now that Ghana is a safe and lovely place to be. Huh? How am I shooting on a TV series in a country that has nothing going on? Does it make sense? How am I performing, winning awards? You guys see my life? Does it look like abject poverty? Does it look like struggle life? Does it look like I can't find snacks? Guys, don't fall for it. Get your ass over here and see what's happening and draw your own conclusions. Because the sad thing is that our people can potentially miss these opportunities because of the distraction, because of the tactics. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much, Blackavelli, for your super chat, sweetheart. I see you there. Thank you so much. Brown Coat Blue says everything is in Africa. Brown Coat Blue says, and even the girl that couldn't find snacks came back and married a Ghani. Guys, that's another thing you should question. Hello? That's another thing you should question. These platforms that have all the smoke for Ghana. Some of these platforms have never been to Ghana, and the other platforms continually come and reside in Ghana. Is that not a contradiction to you folks? Do you guys not see how it doesn't make sense? Because this particular platform that we're talking about, K&K, okay, that made the video about snacks and you shouldn't move to Ghana, and there's other platforms like Go Black to Africa that, you shouldn't buy lands in Ghana, and then Kinganda as well, slamming Ghana a lot of times on this and that. Evaluate it. O'Shea's never been to Ghana, okay? Go Black to Africa constantly here all the time. And K, same thing. So the fact that there's some hypocritical behavior in those platforms should automatically disqualify them, right? I mean, because how can you do, how could you be trusted? How could your message be trusted? If Ghana is not this and that, why are you here? Why do you keep coming back? Huh? From what I understand, the K channel moved, to another location and then came back to Ghana. Why do you keep coming here? It's very obvious. It's very evident because Ghana got the juice. Ghana's the place to be. And that's another reason some of these other platforms have a lot of negativity to say about the continent. Why? Let me tell you today, they can't hack it. They can't hack it in Ghana. They can't afford it. They came for the wrong reasons. Huh? They haven't organized their house or organized their agenda. So they can't make it. And they're bitter and upset about it. It's no different than if you have a commonplace breakup with your partner or you messed up the relationship and your partner moves on. Now you're telling everybody, oh, he wasn't all that. She wasn't all that. I don't really care about them. You a lie. And we all know. We all know you salty about it. Why our people can't see why there's so much criticism around Ghana is because a lot of those people can't make it, can't hack it. And that's the truth. Others, are media geniuses and they know what is going to incite you folks, what's going to get you interested, what's going to get engagement on their channels. And, I have to say, my brother Kinganda, he's a master at it. He knows exactly how to push your buttons. And that's why he's making a lot of money here on YouTube. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Ajike says, I remember that mess. My family was scared that I went to Ghana with you. I just laughed. My guy was happy that I went in my organization on part. Ajike, tell them, were you scared here in Ghana with me? Ajike came to visit me here last year on our tour with Mr. Taye Uhuru. Special shout outs to Ajike. She's the real deal. I love her, man. She came to Ghana and was on our tour, and we took her from Accra to Cape Coast to Kumasi. And were you scared, Ajike? Were you scared? Were you? Did you eat good? Did you find snacks? I mean, it's just ludicrous. Art of Today said, I cannot lie. The Black women that were getting unalived in Gambia did give me a pause on my intentions to move there, but I'm over it and back on course. I mean, realistically, obviously that situation in the Gambia was not pleasing. I actually, we have a member of the African Superstar family that lost a family member that, unfortunately, was murdered in the Gambia as well. And I talked a little bit about that. I actually put out a video when one of the ladies was unalived there and talked about, the gap in the Gambia, what I know about the Gambia. Again, I've not been to Gambia, but from what I know in Gambia, the gap between the rich and the poor is substantial. And obviously when that happens, especially if maybe you're a foreigner, the locals might begin to look at you in a particular way, either an opportunistic way or a resentful way that, hey, this person is coming into my country and living really good. And meanwhile, I'm here struggling. The total dynamics would need to be determined by someone going there to visit, and seeing if, first of all, getting details about that situation, because I do want to say, way more than whatever happened in Gambia happened in the UK, happened in America in terms of Black women being assaulted and unalived. I mean, the violence rates are astronomical in the Western world compared to what happens in Africa, although that was very, very tragic. And understanding the dynamics about what happened in those situations also adds context. Did you have a dispute? Did you make threats? Had you made enemies? How were you matriculating? Were you coming in with superiority complex? Were you fraternizing with people you shouldn't be? There's a lot of things that need to be examined. I know a lot of the Gambian content creators did a really fantastic job on deep diving some of those things and getting some details. I have not followed it closely, but I mean, that would definitely be cause. I don't think, me personally, Gambia would be where I would go. Obviously, I'm here in Ghana. But for those of you guys that are interested, you got to do your due diligence. You got to do your due diligence. And we don't know all the details of those situations. But, all I can say is common sense goes a long way, guys. If you're moving to foreign countries, you got to be savvy because a lot is going on in those environments. And me personally, I don't want to be in a place where I really, really immediately stick out all the time. Here in Ghana, it's diverse to a point that, diverse in terms of there are a lot of diasporians here now, other foreigners in the capital. Ghana is a free place, a safe place. So a lot of times you may not be the focal point of people. There's filthy rich Ghanaians here, okay, driving big cars and living in mansions. They're not looking at the African superstar. You know what I mean? I'm not doing too bad, but I'm not on the top of the totem pole. I'm not going to attract that type of attention. Now, when you go to somewhere like Gambia, where there's a big poverty gap, you're going to immediately be recognized. First of all, they're going to recognize you by appearance. Okay, they know a foreigner there. They can smell it. We look a bit different. We talk. We don't speak the language. There are dead giveaways. They know that we are there, and so you have to be mindful of those things. But I think that honestly, as far as I know, there's way more success stories in Gambia and across the continent than these harrowing stories. There's way more. There's literally now here in Ghana, there's thousands of Black Americans living here for one person who made a video about snacks. And again, there is several things that, if you come here on those premises, they would heighten the probability for your failure here, such as, hello, I'm getting ready to wrap up. Big shout out to the family. Such as, you're coming for romance, ladies. You met that guy on Facebook Messenger. You met him on Match.com or Tinder, whatever. Now you're ready to come to Ghana and meet this guy. Or you're going to Nigeria and meet this guy. I mean, the high probability of scamming that's happening in regards to that, very, very high. Super high. Be careful. Okay? Be careful. 9 times out of 10, that individual is motivated. That's just the facts. All right? Number 2, getting involved in land or business without the due diligence. You bought land from some YouTuber online, whatever, risky business. Okay, you don't know anything about the country, anything about that land, anything. If that person scams you, you can't even, you don't even know their real name or location or any identification of them. You see what I'm saying? Some of these things people are doing, and then they fail and they find themselves in a bind, and then they come and slam Ghana. You got to take accountability for the position you put yourself in sometimes. Okay? Others are coming ill-prepared, no money. They came with $2. They came with $100 thinking they're going to live here all year. No, $100, you'll be lucky if it gets you through a month. Here in Ghana. Hello. You came without any source of income, any business prospects, or whatever. These things I've just talked about, the probability for a disaster is high when you do certain things, and that's the reality. Okay, but getting back to the topic, the concept that all the opportunity is in the Western world, guys, that is a symptom of proximity. Who taught you that? Do you not recognize and realize that people are living good all around the world? Do you not know that there is 195 countries in the whole world, in the US and the UK and Canada? That's 3 countries out of 195. Now, if you think that opportunities only available in the Western world, a place with no mineral resources, hello, little to no manufacturing, huh? Go check in your room. Most of the stuff, if you live in America, most of your stuff is made in China. Hello, a country with loads of debt. You know, you think that's the only place for opportunity, and you don't know, you don't think something's off here. This doesn't quite make sense. Do you not think there's millionaires and billionaires across the world, people living in mansions across the world, people private jets, huh? You need some exposure, because it's a lie. All right. Big shout outs to the African Superstar family. Thank you guys for being here. We had over 25 of you. Yes. So, special shout outs to my members only, Miss Ajike. She was here for the live stream today, and I really appreciate it. Our members only are designated by the circle next to their name. Yes. And they get access to exclusive content behind the scenes. Yes. So you see Ajike's name has the circle next to it. She's a members only. The immediate family. By the way, Ajike, I did post a new video yesterday, so I hope you get a chance to check it out. Yes, yes, yes. I'm reading some of these comments. Michael says, if you move to any country in the world and one of the first things you ask for is where to get the weed, trust me, you just invited craziness into your space. Africa is no exception, just like the world. Shout out to you. Yes, yes, yes. Brown Coat Blue says, ain't nothing to worry about in Ghana. Just have some common sense and manners and you're going to be fine. And so, guys, that's the end of this. That's the end of this live stream. Another symptom of proximity you don't realize. You know, this is why you're scared to come and check out the motherland. You feel like, how am I going to make it? And that's why people here on the continent feel like they got to leave their home sometimes to go abroad. Now, don't get me wrong. I realize that, yeah, you know, because the Western world is a system, you know, made of slavery, that you can easily get in there. You can get in there and get a job and be working and paying bills. No problem. That's what they want you to do. But in terms of like actually climbing the social ladder, it can be really difficult. And often it requires you to sell your soul. You know, virtually all those black celebrities, top politicians, you know, decision makers, they've all sold their soul. They've sold their soul, their behind, their likeness, their kids, whatever, to get ahead. That's just the truth. You know, currently, the opportunity here on the continent is really unmatched, you know, and that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to it. Yes. Much love to the African Superstar family, guys. If you're new to my channel and you enjoy this kind of content, make sure you subscribe to us so you don't miss my proximity series. I also have several other videos. I have a proximity playlist where I talk about various areas where our proximity to them is bad business for us. And this concept that you can't make it anywhere in the world and there's no opportunity, this is yet another example because it's a blatant lie. Okay, big shout out to African Superstar family. I will see you guys again. Until we meet again, stay black and true. If you ain't black, just stay true.
Did you know I was a rapper?
Come chill with me. Look in my eyes and tell me what you see. Together
This is one of my tracks.
are free.
Come chill with me.
VIP,
Available for
it's a
download,
lifestyle.
and the official
I love
music
the way
video
when
is
we
on
kiss, you
YouTube.
smile. I make you laugh. Carefree.
This track can be
Chill
purchased along with all
me.
others on
The beat
bandcamp.com.
drops. It's so hot. Another weekend together. Simply, there's nothing better. My dress shiny, makeup on fleek. It's just you and me.